Hello everyone. Today we will cover how to do VFX work in a product visualization area in Blender. Enjoy watching everyone. Let's move on to our video. Yes friends, today I will explain with you in great detail how to do a product visualization VFX work using both Blender and After Effects. So let's talk about why we use After Effects here. Friends, as you know, tracking, i.e. camera tracking, can be done in Blender. But unfortunately, none of them work as stable as After Effects. Since After Effects provides this in a simpler and more stable way, we usually use After Effects in these operations. I preferred to do it via After Effects today. If you want, let's start by switching to our After Effects right away. Yes my friends. When we pass we open a new work and from here we can drag and drop our video to the project section. I drag and drop it right away and my video is here. Likewise, when I transfer it to the timeline section here right away, my video is here. I can play my video easily from here. Now dear friends, after doing this process, we select our video. We need to say track camera from the tracker panel here. If the tracker section here is not visible, you come to the window immediately. When you select the tracker section from here, you will see that the track section comes directly to this section. Let me select my video again and it came. While my video was being selected directly from this section, I clicked on the track camera and as you can see from here, my tracking process started. I have a humble advice for you. Open the detailed analysis section here so that it can scan in detail and get more stable results. When you work, it will be more stable because it adds more tracks. And our margin of error will decrease even more. I will come to the margin of error and the following parts in a moment. As you can see from here, you can follow how much is left. It tells us about 2 minutes left. Now let's wait for this process to finish. Yes friends, the tracking process is finished. When we look at the analysis section from here, we can see that our margin of error here is 0.58, as I said that margin of error a moment ago. What does this mean? It tells us what kind of margin of error is when all the statistics and calculations made here give us the scene. Values below 1 mean usable values for us. Since it is 0 point, that is, below 1, these values can sometimes be 5, 10, 15, but as I said, After Effects does this perfectly, so your error values can usually be very low. When we looked, we said it was 0.58. Now let's zoom in on our scene a little bit. Let's see what's new. When we play our video, you can see that the calculations are made very cleanly for each movement. Now, our object will appear in this part, that is, since it will appear on this surface, a marking here, or rather, the marking would be a little wrong, I apologize. We will put a solid object here in the form of a square. Now, before that, look, we can't see the surface very clearly. So we can make this area a little more visible by reducing the point size section here. Or if the tracks in the far parts are not visible or it would be better to say point. We say track on the Blender side, but it would be better to say point here too. As you can see, you can enlarge or reduce the points here like this. In the target size section below, there is a red and black circle-like thing and you can adjust its size and solidity from here. Now we can make it a little bigger like this, it would be better for us. From here, I select a certain surface by holding down the left button. Look, when I select here, you can see that this red thing sticks directly here. Now I right-click, friends, when I select the Create Solid and Camera section here, you can see that I created a square-style track solid, that is, a solid object. We have already created 1 and 3 cameras when we click. It says a moment ago that the camera is a solid object. We have taken care of that in this section. In our previous VFX videos, when I used After Effects, when we right-clicked, I selected. You may remember that I also selected this option. We will not select this either. Because since we are calculating a camera with a right angle here, when we transfer it to the Blender side, it can cause quite a bit of distortion in the cameras. If you are going to transfer only one place like this, such as a vertical wall, to the Blender side, this is enough. So you don't need to select this part. Now, let's just select Track Solid from here, friends. Let's adjust its angles a little. I think we can transfer Blender properly. Now I'm moving it up a little bit like this. I'm taking the bottom line as a basis and seeing if it's smooth or not. I'm looking at it, it looks pretty good. When we do a little skill processing on the edges like this, look, we've fitted it here pretty well. Of course, we won't do these parts clearly like this on the Blender side. We'll edit this a little bit when we switch to Blender. Our goal here is for this part to come in the form of a plane when we transfer our object, that is, our scene, to Blender. I'm being a little careful here because I want what I transfer to come properly. Now dear friends, we've done that. So how do we transfer this to Blender? Now let's get to that. Here we need to install a plugin on both the After Effects and Blender sides. Let me show you that quickly. If you want a detailed installation, you can go to the video I put in the description section and watch it from that video. I don't think I need to explain it again, so I'll explain it quickly here. When you come to the site I'm going to explain, you go down a little bit, look, there is a script here, right-click it right away or open it in a new tab, you download it from here. Then you come to After Effects. You install the script you downloaded by clicking Install Script File from the Script section in the Files section. This section will appear directly in this section. If it doesn't appear for you, close and reopen After Effects once. Then it will appear. After doing this, you come to the site again, dear friends. We're coming down a little bit. Look, you can see that there is also a Blender add-on here. Blender is made for 3.60, but it doesn't matter. The latest version of Blender, 4.2, is working very stable even there when you watch this video. You can download it by clicking the download button here again. You can immediately come into Blender and go to the Add-ons tab in the Edit Preferences section. You can install the add-on you downloaded by clicking this section. Then you will see that it comes to this section immediately, dear friends. Now let's come to our After Effects right away. How will we do the subtraction operations? From here, you select Track Solid by holding down the camera Shift key to 3. You can immediately come to the Script section from the Files section, and when you select the one at the bottom, the JSON one, you can give a name right here. I directly give the name VFX and said save, and from here we completed the extraction process by clicking the export button and you can see it here. Let's save this file right away. I'm saving this right away and we have nothing left to do with After Effects. We can close it. Now let's move on to the usage on the Blender side. Friends. We come to Blender again right away and we need to delete everything like in the scene here. So there will be no cameras or anything. These can stay, no problem, but since I want a clean page, I delete everything. I came to the File section. I click on Import right away and select my file named VFX.json from here. When I click on Import AE Composition, look, my file has arrived in my scene very stably. Now one of the points we need to pay attention to here is that After Effects and Blender's frame working logic is slightly different, so you can see that it's coming one frame behind. Here, when you hold down the G key and move one frame forward, that is, when we shift one frame, we also fix this problem. We may encounter a scenario like this. Bro, we exited the selection, we can't see it. How do we adjust this? It can happen sometimes. If you're new, you may have exited the selection after loading. Look, there is an M object right behind the camera. This part will come when you select it. You may have exited the selection from here too. Press the A key once while your mouse is here. Look, we've made the selection. We've fixed this when we press the G key and shift one frame to the right. Now we need to define the length of our video to Blender. In order to play it without freezing or lag here, we need to set the video to rem. Let's get right to it. I'm opening a new motion tracking panel from the VFX section. By clicking open from this section, I'm immediately loading my video into Blender. When I say set screen frame, the length of my video automatically came here. I click the profs option and see that it quickly set my video to rem. You can now see that I can play my video without freezing or lag. We've done that too. What's next, friends? We need to define the frame number of our video to Blender by coming to Output Properties. From here, we're completing the frame number of our video, which is 29.97. We've done those operations too. Now I've moved on to the camera angle with 0. Here I select my camera. I came to the Data Property section of the camera. From here, let's load our video from this part to the background. I say mall clip. No need to click open and load again. We had already uploaded the video to Havza a while ago. I select it from here. I increase the opacity a little more from here. I make my video appear more clearly. Yes, if we play our video like this, friends. Let's watch the VFX part in a very stable way now for camera tracking. Can use the camera tracking process. I couldn't say for a moment, but you get the idea. Yes, friends, there is no need to play continuously in this part. This place will be enough for us. If we examine it in more detail, it will be quite. You can see it's nice. For example, we can shift this a little. Because look, it's a little outside the building at this part. I think I probably missed it while applying it after. Now we're going to do something like this here, guys. Let's activate our gizmo. Here, in rotation and extrusion operations, let's take the object's own axis as the basis by calling local here instead of Blender's own axis. Because our object is at a diagonal angle, it would be more logical to work this way. I say GX, I shifted the x-axis a little like this. I will also enter edit mode and shift here in edit mode. Let's select the mode button again. And let's close it. I select the edge selection mode from here. I select it here. I called GX and brought this to the exact edge of my building like this. I go back to object mode. Yes, as you can see, it plays very stably. Let's play our video like this. Good. We can now use it like this, dear friends. There may be a slight lag here. Maybe your RAM is low, something or other. Since it was already a bit of a long work, I think it might have happened because of that. Now let's see, dear friends, what are we going to do here now? Let's come to the first frame. We need to set our scene here. Of course, we're in edit mode. Now in order to do a masking operation, we will extrude the parts that will remain outside this object upwards and left and right or up and down here. I couldn't explain it, but you will understand better when you do it now. Now look, I'm selecting here while in edge yellow mode. I said extra Z. I moved this up about 20 like this. So look at 20 meters here it appears. I can copy this. I'm selecting these places. I said extrude X. I'm doing Ctrl V. I selected. I said extrude Z. Ctrl V, but I'm clicking the minus button because I want it to go down. In the same way, I selected here with the lower right click. I say X. I'm doing Ctrl V, but I'm doing this because I want it in the minus direction. Now why did we do this, friends? Since we'll be extruding this part inward in a moment, these parts shouldn't be visible. In other words, the part that goes inward shouldn't be visible. When we enter the render section of this in a moment, you'll understand very well what the operations I'm doing mean. Now we need to memorize the areas here, dear friends. Here I'm applying a light insert operation by pressing I. Now we can do the bottom part like this. Look, I brought it to this part of the wall. For example, what should we do here? What should we do? I think we can bring this part somewhere. Good, we have set these places like this. If you want from the edges, you can do extra roots or scale operations like this. For example, look, I wanted this place a little smaller, so I did something like this. We switched to shallowing mode with 3. I am selecting here. I said extrude. I extruded a certain amount inside like this. In this way, I have done something in the style of land. Now let's come to this part. Let's activate these so that the details of our objects are a little more visible. By the way, friends, since my eyes are a little damaged, I will choose this color from Madcap here so that my eyes do not get too tired while working. Now friends, we've done these operations too. What's next? Let's move on to the material part, but before that, let's immediately switch to the Cycles render engine. I'm switching to the graphics card so I can render faster. For now, I'll add an environment HDR, or rather a direct HDR coating to the background. It would probably make more sense to call it HDR lighting. Let's see if we can do it like this. Good, we have this lighting for now. Now friends, we're in edit mode. I'm going to mask these parts completely. I'm selecting these parts right away. As you can see, I won't select these parts. These parts will remain normal. How do we do it now? We come to the Material tab. We've added a new material. Right from there we click on Principle and can we find it from here? See if it found it from here. Here we have a material called Hold Out. You can also select it from here, or let's open a new material window right here. I'm going to the shader editor from here. Now I'm coming. I selected the principle here and pressed X and deleted it. I'm coming from the Shift A section right away. I found Hold Alt. I'm connecting this right away. I'm adding a new material, guys. I said new. In fact, if I go into render mode like this, look. You can see that we're doing something like masking here directly. Hold Out actually has a masking, hiding feature. That's why we use this. Now of course we're selecting these parts and here and there with the Alt right clicks. As you can see, I'm calling these the second material assign. Look, did you see what happened when we switched to the camera angle? We masked these areas. These areas are not visible. Only the parts where we assigned the previous material are visible, dear friends. Now maybe we can move this part a little further inward like this. It looks pretty good for now. Now friends, we're going to do some small render tests here. So I'm making this 50 samples and from here I'm selecting my graphics card from the denoise section. Now let's do it like this from here. I'm even coming. I came to a specific frame. It doesn't matter where I come to. I press the render button. I'm taking my test render like this. Of course, we need to do one more thing in this section. We also need to turn off the visibility of the background, or HDR, from the film section. Let's say render again. We got our render quickly. You can see it looks pretty good. Now we need to go to the composition section and adjust the video here. So we need to add a video to the background. We need to combine the video with our render. I select the Move Clip section directly from here, or you can select Move Clip directly from Shift A and it means the same thing. I select the video we loaded into memory from here. We need to combine these now. So what are we going to combine it with? Of course, from the Shift A menu, from Color, I select the Alpha over section right here. I connect it like this. This is also I connect it like this. When I press Ctrl Shift and click the left button, Weaver adds my scene like this. As you can see, I have done something like this. Now I have come to a specific frame again. It doesn't matter where I come to. I'm rendering. Now I'm waiting for the composition to be completed. It's not visible right now. Why isn't it visible? Let's see right away. Friends, it's not visible because we only added it to the Weaver section from here. Look again, we took an output from here and connected it to the compositor section. It will now be visible. I'm saying render again. And as you can see, friends, it combined very well with my video and the scene in my composition, and you can see it playing. Maybe we can assign these parts to our material called HoldRat, friends. I think it would be more logical. Let's do it like this if you want. Let's go back to layout from here again. Let's switch to ESC's render mode again. Sorry, I was going to say let's exit ESC's angles and stuff. I didn't understand what the render mode is about for a moment. For example, look, let's do this like this. Let's select it with the lower right click and assign them to this material, and as you can see I think it will be better this way. I mean, when we look at it I think it's a little better like this. We can use it like this. I'm coming to the frames a little further again. Let's render like this again. You can skip those borders if you want. I added the holdout material for them too. It seemed a little better this way to me. As I said, you can skip using it if you want. Now that we've set up this much friends, it's time for the thing. What will we use? I have a shoe material that I downloaded from the internet as a model. What does material have to do with it, bro? I was going to say model, sorry. I have one shoe model. Now we'll use it right away. As you can see, we have a shoe like this. Of course, we need to edit it a little. So I'll make them side by side like this. Let's say Ctrl L like this. Like this, even let me select all the pieces in circle selection mode like this. Just in case, I say Ctrl L. I'll rotate this a little bit like this, so that it's next to it like this, or for example, I can rotate this 180 degrees like this. So I can use it like this too. Or let's do it like this. I say Ctrl I. Let me rotate this one, for example. To make it a little different, I rotated one to the right and the other to the left like this. I think it'll be a little better like this. Now let's make their materials quickly, friends. From here, I'm going to the shader editor. I said near, I am adding new material. While my principal is selected, I click Ctrl-Shift-T buttons. I come to the textures folder. I select them all by pressing the A key. From here, I click the principal texture setup button. And as you can see, I have made the connections. Of course, this will not be visible. Let's look at the material preview mode. I don't think there is any need to use displacement too much here. Or if you do, you can use it at very low values. Now I pressed Ctrl-C. I copy the shoe. I came to my own Blender work. I said Ctrl-V and my shoe is here. I bring it to my scene by saying G-Shift-Z. In fact, you can see that it is quite small in size. Let's enlarge it a little like this. Let's see, it looks pretty good. Now can we do something like this here, guys? Let's see. Actually, we can do something like this here. We can connect these to an MTRSys. Could it make more sense? It would make more sense, I think. Let's do it like this, guys. Here, we can also give these an animation feature or something. So we need to edit these a little bit. Now I'm going to add a plane to the scene. I'm moving this around like this. I'm bringing this over like this. Here, I'm going to do a ground adjustment or something like this. But before that, I'm going to set a center for these. Then I'm going to do these exactly like this. I send it to where the cursor is, I'm moving it up a little bit. Now we'll need to use the synap operations a little bit from here, so let's do it like this. I'm coming to the synap, I'm going to say surface, I'm selecting these like this. By saying G, Z, I pasted them completely to the surface like this. In other words, the plane right there. That was actually the purpose of adding the plane. Just to paste these to the ground. Now I'm deleting these. Now dear friends, what should I add to the location where these are from Shift-A? Let's add an EMT object. I'm making it a little bigger like this. As you can see, I made a big, I couldn't say big, EMT object in order to select it more easily. First I select the shoe, then the EMT object. Then, when I say key transform from Ctrl-P, as you can see, we have made these objects equal to the EMT object. Now look at the surfacing mode, I'm selecting here. I selected EMT when I sent this like this. Now I have added these like this. Now let's see, for example, I look at the camera like this, what angle are we going to work at? In fact, let's see, a pretty challenging angle is waiting for us here. Now I'm tilting it a little more by doing re. As you can see, I can make it a little smaller. You can adjust it so that it goes slightly into the ground if you want. I couldn't say, but you get the idea. So that it goes into the ground. What's the connection, son? You can adjust it so that it goes into the ground. I'll set it like this. Now when we switch to render mode, look, we see an image like this, dear friends. Now we can increase our lighting a little like this, or there are options like we can use different lighting etc. Now let's do it like this, friends. Let's open a new window from here. We already had a new window. I don't understand why we opened it. Let's do it like this. What do we get to from here? Let's get to the world section. Now I'm going to use an HDR here. For example, it could be something like this HDR. Look, our lights are showing up very nicely and sweetly. I think we should lower the value a little bit. It doesn't need to explode so much. Even if we do it once, I think it would be enough. Let's say 1.2. I call it 1.5 the trial and error method. I think this is quite enough for me. Now let's render again and see what kind of result we got. We rendered it pretty quickly and you can see that our shoes etc. are sitting pretty neatly here. What are we going to do here now, friends? We have another little feather here. Let's see what happens. We can put an object in front of it and do a hiding operation there too. For example, I copy the edge here. Not Shift. I say Z. I brought it up a little bit like this. I say Ctrl L. As you can see, I can enlarge the x-axis a little bit more. By making it GY, I move it outward very slightly. Then I pressed P. I said selection and separated it. In short, I turned it into a separate object. I switched to render mode again with Z. Now let's see what kind of process awaits us. Look, you see, since we masked one of these objects in front of it, we added it directly in front of it, so nothing is visible. I say G, Z, look, I'm pulling it down. Look, my object is visible here, do you see it? Here, we'll use it up and down to create an image as if there was a cover type thing here. Before we do that, let's do something like this. Friends, I will need to specify that this part, in fact the starting position, is here. First, let's do it like this. I called the cursor here. I will add an end object here so that I know at least this is the starting position. Then, we set the center of this object exactly where this cursor is as. Very good. Let's also look at the surfaces of our object. Yes, we can see that it is upside down. Here we need to pay attention to the surface normal. Since I assigned it directly to the well-favored part, I can open it directly from here. If this is not visible for you, you can open and close the face orientation section from this section. I entered edit mode. I will rotate the surface normal by pressing Shift N. But it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Sometimes you can make such annoying things. It comes, let's open it again. When we say control password, look, you see the surface is rotating. Let's close it again. Now friends, let's do it like this. We come to this part right away, like this. Let's come like this. Let's come. From here, we actually need to determine in how many frames our lid will go down and up. Let's come like this. Look, after a frame like this, let's throw a keyframe, as you can see. Then, I come, after it comes like this, I pull it down a little, as you can see. Throw another keyframe again, look. In fact, if we look at it in render mode, like this, I assign my keyframes by pressing the I key directly, look. I'm watching like this. See? When our lid goes down, we are greeted by an image like this, dear friends. You can see that we did it in a very simple way. There's nothing difficult here. We did it simply as a very logical process. For example, let's do something else here. Here, for example, we can take the shoes out a little like this. But for example, these lids can open a little earlier. Let's see if you want. If you zoom in like this, it will open faster. If we watch like this, I think this speed is quite sufficient. Then, for example, we can make our shoes come out. But before that, I will add an empty end object here to determine its starting position. I can rotate this slightly like this. I am also enlarging it a little like this. Now I have selected my shoes, friends. Let's see, our lid is closing here. While we were at this part, I added a keyframe. So I actually memorized the starting position in this part. I'm selecting like this. Let's select mode from here again. It's opened, but I couldn't see it. I'm bringing it a little like this. I'm even bringing it a little like this. I threw a keyframe again. Look what happened. When the lid is opened, my shoe is here. In fact, if you want to slow it down a little more, you can open the range a little more. For example, look, when it comes here, I can rotate the shoe a little like this. Look, it's coming and turning. You can see it's gone when it comes here. For example, you can rotate the shoes like this and show them here. It's completely up to you. Look, it's coming. Here, my shoe is spinning again. In other words, you can open this part a little more like this. Let's watch it again. Look, our shoe opens, comes here on our screen. Let's see, let's watch it in render mode like this. I can say that it's perfect. Now okay, up to this part. For example, when it comes here, I want it to stay a little more stable here. Our cursor is already here or without any effort. Look, there is a keyframe in the starting position. I copy it and bring it to the beginning. Look what happened. It has logically returned to its starting position. We can bring it a little more like this. I come like this and I have come. We can narrow this part a little more. Because of course we will close the lid at the end. That's why I think we can do something like this. Look, it plays very logically and our shoe has gone to its starting position. Now let's come like this, friends. We had one lid. I'm also assigning a keyframe here. Before I get to the end, I'm copying a keyframe from here. Actually, there was the starting position part. I'm copying it like this. I brought it like this and let it go. I can even bring it like this. Look, I brought it like this and my shoe goes and my lid closes like this. Let's watch. I can say it works very well. Yes friends, you can generally do the VFX part of a product visualization like this. We did it in a very simple way, so as you can see there is nothing extra difficult. Of course, different difficult works can be done in their advanced level different works, but technically you can do it like this in its simplest form. For example, you can assign a different color to this. What could it be? It could be green like this, or it could be something that dominates the colors of the building. I think it could be something like this. Or you can get a copy of the main color of the building by copying color directly from here. It could be something like this. But I think slightly lighter colors like this would be better. Yes, it's pretty good. Now how are we going to make the animation come out? Friends, one of the points you need to pay attention to here is that I couldn't tell you. Sorry, I swallowed. One of the points you need to pay attention to is color management. If the color tones of the video are important to you, look here for color management. When you say standard from the view transforms section, you can get the original colors of the video exactly. Or if you want something more effective, you can use color palettes like AGX, Filmation. For example, we chose standard. If you want to get a more contrasting image from the look section, you can do it like this. But I'll leave it like this. I won't do anything extra. You can see that our animation is working properly. Now let's exit render mode. Now we'll do some experiments here. Let's see which sample does the job for us. I did something like this between 50 or 30 samples. I'm coming here like this. Let's do a test render here and see how many seconds it takes. You can see that we render in about a second or two. Well, if you have enough time, of course you can render in high values like 100, 150 samples. I don't have much time here right now. Since I'm also shooting a training video here, I unfortunately don't have the chance to render in such high times. As I said, if you have time, you can render at higher settings. I'm testing it again and I can see that it works fine. Now, after doing this process, friends, we set our resolution etc. They were already automatically set from the beginning. We switch to cycles, we switch to our graphics card. We open denoise etc. From here, especially if you have an NVIDIA-based or a powerful AMD card, I don't know if AMD supports this part anymore. Enable it to use the graphics card from here, friends. Let it use the graphics card in denoise operations. If it's up to the processor, oh boy, you're in trouble. You'll wait. So select this from here. After doing this process, we had set this part directly. We come to the output settings section and from here I will go to the file location immediately. Let me copy it. It immediately goes to the file location. I name it Final VFX here. I named it like this and click the exit button. Let's say I click the confirm button. Now from here. Let's select this part guys, and what should we do from here? What should we do? We can actually do something like this right from here. When we click here, from here directly HGUSATM USATM USATM USAT. I don't think you need to do much extra from here. I think this will be more than enough for you. Let's see again from here. Of course, you can see that there are different formats here. So when we select it, it goes. From here we can set the bitrate value to 3000. I don't think it needs to be too much. These values are sufficient for us. Let's save our Blender file, and when we say render animation from here, we started our animation rendering. You can see that we can already get our animation rendered quickly. From here, especially friends, do not forget to connect the composite part from the output section. Sometimes friends forget to connect this at these stages, but don't forget. I would say that's all for today, but of course I won't, my friends. After the animation is finished, we will watch it again and see how it is. I will also make a critical evaluation with you. Now let's wait for our animation to finish. Well friends, our rendering is finished. Let's see how it goes. Let's see where we saved it. Was it in a place like this? Where did I record this? I can't find it right now. Oh, it's like this. I found it. Okay, let's put it this way. Let's watch more comfortably. Let's open it. Of course, I'll give you this full screen. I can say that it is quite perfect. Pretty good. So of course you can make these better by customizing them. I tried to show you here how you can do this in a basic way. I think it's pretty sweet and nice. As I said, you can get even better results by improving it, friends. I hope you enjoyed watching and making it. That's all for today, dear friends. See you in the next content. I say, take care of yourselves.